Oh, yeah, and that reminds me of another thing. So people these days, I think everybody in the world these days are just stuck on their cell phones all the time. And I'm trying my best to, except the students because all their cell phones are in the box, but they're out of the box now because on the field trip to Wuhan, the students can take their cell phones, but I'm sure they're very very controlled because I saw pictures of the field trip and nobody had a cell phone. So I'm guessing they give the cell phone to the students like when they're on the bus or maybe in the hotel. Maybe I don't know, which is good because people these days in almost every country, it's not just China, it's not just America, it's not just Europe. Um, they're just walking around staring at their screens all the time. And sometimes I do that when I'm chatting with somebody or I have business to take care of or I need to look up my schedule, and it's something to do when you're walking. Uh, but I try my best to, if I don't need it when I'm walking around, I try my very best, especially when my students are around, to put it in the pocket unless I'm filming. Okay, there's another one. Look at that. You can put the cell phone in the slots. And then the student's like, oh, I need to talk to my dad. And then we open that and then take the Sochi, take the cell phone. Sochi means cell phone in Chinese. Yeah. And I want to be a good example to the students and not walk around like a freaking zombie with the phone, looking down in the phone. So I want to be able to see who I'm walking by, and if I know them, normally I will say hello. Yeah, and not walk around staring at my screen. I think everybody knows about this issue. And yeah, be more friendly. Um, the students, they don't get to do that. So try to put the Sochi away. Yeah, I had the Sochi out. I had the cell phone out when I'm filming my walk. Um, but that's kind of a different story, I think. I'm not like trying to avoid people. I'm going around documenting a lot of my life here in China. Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. Not a lot to talk about at school because it's been such a boring week. I have a lot of stories I need to go and tell, but I need to go and tell those stories in the mountains. Okay, story number one is going to be the cougar story. So that one is going to be told in the mountains where it happened. Story number two is the Goral story. That one also should be told where I saw the Goral. And then I'm going to make a video of where I put the trail cam, and if I get any photos, maybe 2 weeks, I can upload some of those photos, and you guys can see and appreciate some of the wildlife here in Zhejiang. Um, so yeah, uh, and what else? I have a couple firefighting stories, like the George Washington fire. Andrew, you were not on that fire, so don't. It's nothing to do with you. But that fire was the craziest fire I've ever been on. Yeah, so I'm gonna tell that story, and then I'm gonna tell the pocket watch story. Um, we're not allowed to take relics from the forest, but there was I think a good reason why one of our firemen we said go ahead and keep it because it was like it's a cool story. So we thought he deserved to keep it. So we're not supposed to take. I'm not going to name any names, but we're not supposed to take relics from the forest. So we're supposed to pick them up, look at them, and appreciate them, and then just leave them there where we found them. Also, yeah, that's actually the law, but you can't really enforce that law very much. Uh, yeah, that's firefighting story will be told. That should be told in the mountains, not in the office. The or at least like in the park, you know. But I can't actually leave the office right now. There are like really important officials walking around today, so we gotta hide in the office. Okay, and Pocket Watch story, GW fire story, the craziest fire I've ever been on. Oh my God. Oh, the cursed fire story. Yes. So I already told these stories, but my gimbal was like going click, 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 because it's a piece of crap gimbal. So I need to get a new gimbal or just go and I like to I like to move when I talk. So I'll try to like just set up a tripod and tell the cursed fire story where it was the worst fire I've ever or the worst crew I'd ever been on. So I'm going to talk about that. And it was also a really it was the worst crew I've ever worked with. A bunch of newbies. Didn't even speak none of them spoke English. They they were kind of racist against me because I was the only white guy. I was the only American or the only white guy on the entire crew, and I just felt kind of ostracized by them. So it's like kind of like reverse racism. Uh, and the fire was cursed where we went, and so I'm going to talk about the cursed fire story. Oh, I have so many stories, so it's going to take, and every time I tell a story, the universe throws like 2, 3 more stories at me. So I'm going to document those and put them on the YouTube where they'll hopefully be forever, at least until our star explodes. So that's kind of cool. I don't care if anybody watches them, but they're there. They're going to be there forever and ever. So that's kind of cool. And not only for you guys, but for my family and friends, and also myself to watch from time to time. Yeah. What else? Oh, there's so many stories. So I'm just kind of writing. Oh, yeah. So I also made a video about. Oh no, I'm also planning to make a video about how to be a really good teacher and kind of like my story of how teaching went from so stressful to like so fun. Okay, so when I first came to this school, it was so bad, and the students were so out of control, and I didn't know how to control them. Okay, so this is my 3rd year teaching here. Last year, it all came together and clicked, and that's when I started changing my ways. Okay, and so this year, finally, I got to start on a good note with all the new students and my older year 11 students. And this year has been so amazing so far. So happy. And so I have like a list of a dozen things about what I learned as a high school teacher on how to be a good teacher, really. All right, number 1 on the list is like love is the answer. Okay, so I'm gonna go down the list from 1 to like maybe 12, maybe 20. We'll see. And yeah, so all the teachers out there, but not only all the teachers. This is like life advice for just being how to work with people. Like so, that's been a struggle with me my whole life. Is I don't really understand people very much. Like I said in my earlier video, I'm almost on the autism spectrum. Not quite. I'm like borderline like Asperger / normal. So if I were a little bit more autistic, I would be Asperger. And if I'm a little bit less, I would be normal, but I'm kind of like right in between. So it wasn't like a serious test. It was like an online test. And my score was 25, and 25 was the last number. Like 26 would have been Asperger, but 25 was still normal. So I'm still normal, but just barely. Yeah, so it's probably not a serious test though, so whatever. We lost a teacher. Well, we lost a worker here who was an intern, so maybe his internship is over. Yeah. Oh, wow. 45 minutes to go. So I'm just going to make videos to pass the time. Yeah, what other stories did I tell that I had to throw away because my gimbal was going click, 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 click. Yeah, so time for a new gimbal or some sort of other thing. Or yeah, tripod, and just do it standing on the mountain. What else? What other story am I going to tell? What other story did I tell? So, oh, yeah, so this was like my second fire ever when I was a university student. And it was like, this was the Elk, or not the Elk City Fire, it was called the Poet Fire Complex. And this was a fun fire. We had a lot of fun on that fire. And so that fire has two stories from it. Okay, one of the stories is when we gridded for 4 days. Okay, I won't tell the story now. And the other story for a lightning strike. And the other story from that fire is maybe the storm story, like when tents went flying. Okay, and we had to stay in the camp. And what else? There was something else. Yeah, that's about it. I might talk about the lightning strike fire that we did find. That was just blowing up. Like we got there and it was like burning like crazy, but it was still small and we were able to put it out quickly. It was thick forest too. Yeah, so that fire, it was in central Idaho near Elk City, which is a pretty beautiful area and I think pretty well-known area. Oh man, and the food in that restaurant there was awesome. I would love to visit that little town again and go to that restaurant and do sightseeing. And if you're a hunter, you probably want to go there and do some hunting. That'd be a great place to go hunting. The ranchers that live out there are really lucky. Yeah. Elk City, I hear lots of stories about Elk City. I just heard another Elk City story from Steve Isdell at howtohunt.com, but I don't go into details about his stuff. Just if you want to check it out yourself, go check it out. He kind of stopped doing hunting videos so much, like hunting story videos. And I actually hope he goes back to doing hunting story videos more, like mixes it up a little bit. But he's so focused on this other topic that he's not showing those videos as much anymore. And I really like his hunting stories. Like, we are storytelling creatures, right? We learn language because we want to tell our stories. And I have a lot of stories. All right, yeah. Some stories will remain personal. So some stories that are kind of personal, I might tell my students, but I'm not going to put them online, at least on YouTube. I'm going to tell my Thai coup d'etat story on YouTube one of these days. I have to decide where should I be when I tell that story. I'm thinking the mountains is probably a good place for that place, so I can talk loudly and not be distracted by whatnot. Yeah, so most of my stories are going to be told in the mountains. So that's another reason to go to the mountains. Unfortunately, the videos where I'm walking and recording myself are terrible because it's just too shaky. So I got to stop doing that. Yeah, Thai coup d'etat story. So many stories. I wrote a bunch of stories down on a list, so there's like 100 stories there that I was thinking about telling. Yeah. Tell your stories, guys. Everybody should be telling their stories. If you have any amazing stories from your life, like, just tell your story and make a video of it and put it on social media for friends and family and the universe. Bye-bye.